Yay, I'm back. Hey everybody, welcome to another weekly live stream with yours truly. It's your favorite Gemini, Dr. Sarah L. Webb. All right, at least one of your favorite Geminis, let me say that. So I had a great birthday week, excellent birthday week. Shout out to my big sister who came and visited you, girl. We did some tours, amazing things. But I'm excited to be back live. I did stream a pre-recorded video last week, so if you missed that, you can watch it on YouTube. It was a really good one, if I must say so myself. But it's good to be back live, to be able to interact with you all. I do like interactive live streams, so feel free to leave your comments and questions throughout, and I'll make sure to leave time at the end just for that. This week, we're talking about profiling. Racial profiling and how colorism plays a significant role in racial profiling. Okay, so this is a really important one. Again, if this is your first time, this is part of an ongoing series I've been doing on corporate colorism, looking at some of the systemic impact and how colorism impacts pay inequalities, healthcare outcomes, employment, and in this case, treatment by professionals, whether that be treatment by professional law enforcement, treatment by professional sales clerks, treatment by professional lawyers, like any professional setting that we go into, any place of business, any workplace setting, our skin tone, our hair textures, our facial features, of course, other things like how we dress, all sorts of things are impacting the way we are treated and the kind of service we receive or the kind of service we don't receive, okay? So I often repeat myself, but some things bear repeating, right? And so I've said before that people who want to create racial equity and racial justice, but ignore colorism as a significant factor in those things, are sabotaging their own work. They're sabotaging their own efforts towards racial equality and racial justice if they're ignoring the significant impact that colorism has. And the same is true for profiling. The same is true for racial profiling. I have said it many times and it has stepped on many a toe, okay? But a lot of the Black people, for example, who are murdered and killed by law enforcement aren't just Black. Many of them, most of them, are also dark-skinned Black people. Many of them have Afro-textured hair. Many of them have full features. When we think about men like Eric Garner, Michael Brown, Alton Sterling, George Floyd, these are also larger Black men. And so we have to acknowledge that it's not just your racial classification, it's not just what you check on the census that makes you more vulnerable to various types of profiling, but it's also your physical appearance, okay? So I'm gonna dive into this a little bit further. A lot of the profiling instances that make the news are the more sensational instances, the instances that end in tragedy and death. Those are the things we collectively, internationally discuss and talk about. But profiling happens on micro levels, on small instances in so many ways that people all over the world are experiencing that will never make the news. I myself experience profiling every time I go shopping. Not every time, but very often when I go shopping, when I go to the movies, when I'm going to the gym, right? There are so many instances where my physical appearance is impacting the level of service I receive or don't receive, okay? So it's not just applicable in the more tragic instances of police killings, but racial profiling and colorism's role in racial profiling is definitely applicable to things like customer service, management, and overall business interactions, okay? The first thing I'll say is that in order for racial profiling to happen, there must be the perception of race. Slow down, because it still baffles me that people have been able to do so much talking. It baffles me that there's been so much discourse around racial profiling without the lens of colorism, because, again, let me repeat myself. In order for racial profiling to occur, there must be the perception of race. And people don't like to hear it, but skin tone, y'all, is one of the main things we use to perceive race, okay? Along with things like facial features, right? So you hear light-skinned people say, oh, I get profiled too. that's true, but you still have some other physical attribute, or maybe even demeanor, the way you talk, your style of dress. There's still something that is a clue to the person that you are Black or non-white, right? But we have to acknowledge that if someone is standing 50 yards away from you, you're going to notice their skin tone, okay? A lot quicker than you would even their eye color, for example. Hair texture is also a big one. Whenever I wear my afro, I do notice differences in customer service, for example, versus when I have other hairstyles. I don't often have other hairstyles, but in the past, when I had straight hair, for example, it's different when you have an afro. And so if a cop, for example, is driving by in a car and they're like, oh, this cop stopped me because I'm Black. If I had very light skin and straight hair, what are the odds that they would have perceived me or spotted me as Black from a distance, driving past in my car, versus having dark skin and an afro? You see where I'm going with this? Research studies have corroborated what I'm explaining and showing that the more your features, your physical features, your hair texture, and your skin tone match the targeted race, the targeted racial group, the stronger the stereotype, the stronger the bias, the more quickly people act in response to you based on those biases and stereotypes. Okay, I just realized I forgot to close the window. So hopefully there aren't too many motorcycles that drive by or airplanes that fly over. If they do, I'll just pause and let them pass. So again, how many times am I going to have to say this? I wonder. But stop talking about racial profiling without also simultaneously talking about colorism. Just don't do it. It's just not helpful anymore at this point. If you really want to solve racial profiling writ large in any arena, any field, any professional setting, any part of society, you have to acknowledge the ways that people's physical appearances impact their experiences with racial profiling, because it is our physical appearances in most cases that are allowing people to perceive our race in the first place. Now, this is not discrediting other instances where people might already know your race. So I'll give you an example where racial profiling can happen even if the person doesn't see you. If you go to the doctor's office and you fill out a form and you put your race or your ethnicity on the form, even without seeing you, the nurses or the doctors or any of the medical staff, based on the demographic data that they already know about you because of the written information, you could still experience racial bias. You are still likely to experience anti-Black violence, medical racism, and that sort of thing. So yes, it's possible that other forms, other instances of bias and discrimination happen even without the physical perception of your experience. But I'm mainly focusing on those instances where you're in person, again, being stopped by the cops, having security called on you because you're shopping at an expensive store, or having the police called on you because you're waiting at Starbucks and you haven't ordered anything yet because the person you're meeting with isn't there. Right? I don't know if y'all remember that story. And then when we look at the totality of intersectional identity, it's also not just the perception of race, but who is doing the perceiving, right? And when we think about bias and unconscious bias and profiling, it is much easier, for example, for other Black people to perceive and identify other Black people, right? Or for people from within that group to identify each other. And so, especially when we're talking about cross-culturally and cross-racially in racial profiling, you better believe that if it's a white professional, a white cop, a white lawyer, they are that much more reliant on things like skin tone and hair texture in their perpetuating of the biases. Now, I want to give a few examples before I go to your questions and comments. I think this is a pretty straightforward discussion, y'all, and it's my first day back from vacation, so I'm not trying to do a lot of heavy lifting, okay? Just gonna give it to you straight, like this is what it is. if you refuse to believe me, if you don't want to believe me, if you think you need more proof, I'm not here to convince you. I'm just not. Okay. But other instances beyond the more newsworthy examples of calling the cops on people, right? Central Park joggers and things like that. There are more mundane, micro level of experiences that people experience because of profiling and colorism. Ones that I experience very often, and you all can chime in the chat, things that you notice and observe, and maybe my antenna is just like highly attuned to these things, but I see it every time. One is not offering assistance when it is standard to do so, right? And so I'm talking now to managers, especially managers, supervisors, people over customer experiences, customer relations, and that sort of thing. So all of you all in the corporate world, all of you in the business world, when you're training and coaching and advising your employees who are on the ground in the field, interfacing with clientele, interfacing with customers, these are the kind of discussions you have to have, right? And so noting and creating a culture where your colleagues can call you out and be like, oh, I noticed that this customer came in and you didn't offer them assistance. You didn't offer to help them when it's protocol to do so. It's our protocol. It's our standard that every time someone walks in, we greet them and we say, how can I help you? And you didn't do that. Care to say why? Were you distracted? Were you busy? Or maybe you thought they weren't going to buy anything, right? Making a customer wait a longer time than usual. These are sometimes might be considered microaggressions, but I know I have experienced it. I know other Black people I've talked to have experienced it, where you go up to a counter and people act like they don't see you. They're busy doing all sorts of other things that were only important when you walked in the door. Before you walked into the establishment, that little paperwork that they're trying to take care of was not urgent, right? But suddenly, because you walk in, all of a sudden they have all these other little tasks that they have to attend to before they address you. Now, another one is not greeting a customer as they enter. I shared this on a recent webinar I did where I was walking in slightly ahead of this light-skinned woman, and I made contact with the cashier at the Walgreens, and she didn't say anything. I didn't say anything. I went on about my business. But as soon as like the light-skinned woman walked in following me, like I heard like from all the way across the pharmacy, hello, welcome to Walgreens. It's like, oh, okay, so interesting. You can speak right after me, but when I walked in, you couldn't speak, right? This is a big one. We've all experienced or heard stories. I'll say we've all heard stories of this, but being followed in a store or having covert surveillance around you. I noticed it like even here in Costa Rica one time. I was at a grocery store and they have a lot of security guards and just various private security guards and then obviously public policia, etc. And just their posture, their body language when you go to the cash register. Last week I told y'all how I see it all. And the media, the TV shows, the commercials. I don't know, maybe it's like a sixth sense, but I pick up on body language. I pick up on posture. I am able to track where a person's gaze is going at any given moment, right? And I'm able to observe the contrast in your positioning, where you stand, how you stand, where you're looking when I'm at the register versus when other people are at the register. And so that's a big one. I've even noticed how like a Black manager, for example, will subtly tell an employee to come and fix the clothing around the rack that I'm looking at, right? I have felt that. I was in Illinois. I think I was living in Illinois when that happened. I was shopping. I'm like, this, I don't want nothing from y'all still, okay? But like, I noticed how the manager was like telling the young woman to like, oh, go stand over there. And it's so obvious, like these clothes are perfectly ordered, organized, like there's nothing hanging off the hanger. They're perfectly folded. You have no reason to be here right now. And it's that much more obvious because you're lingering, but you're not offering assistance. You're not offering to help. You're just there pretending to fold clothes. It happens so freaking often. It's so annoying. Okay, this is another big one. So I'm telling some personal story. This is a big one, y'all. Okay, so listen to this story. asking for more verification than what's asked of others, okay? So the Bay Area of California, Oakland, California, my first year of my master's program, I went to the bank, a local bank, to cash a check, cash my little student refund check, okay? And they were straight up lying, y'all. The bank tellers and the manager on duty were straight up lying because they didn't believe that it was a real check, okay? And so I'm like, and I'm like a college student. I'm like, I need my money. I gotta buy books and food and stuff, right? And so I was at the bank for like an hour or more trying to cash this check. They straight up lying, talking about, oh, the person who signed this, they have to call or something. Girl. So I called my mom, and this was when I had a BlackBerry, okay? This was before like iPhones where you could just like Google stuff real quick. It was a hot mess. But they lied. They were straight up lying, thinking I would just go away or try a different bank. I was like, no, because this is a legitimate check and I'm a legitimate customer, okay? So lying about how much verification is actually needed, or even if the verification is needed in cases where you have the authority to override it or forgo something, right? You do it very easily and unconsciously for all your other customers, but for some reason, this dark-skinned African-American woman with an afro, now you have to, follow this really rigid protocol. It's BS, it's bogus. And then also we have already talked about calling security because you think someone looks suspicious, right? And so the list goes on and on and on. There are so many things people can say, not say, so many things people can do or not do that fall into this category, right, of profiling and bias and discrimination in professional settings. And my examples are based on things that I have actually lived through. So a lot of the list, the little bullet point that I put in the article are all things that I experienced over and over and over again on many, many occasions. So what you have to do for homework is insist on using colorism as a framework when you're talking about profiling. Again, the bottom line is, y'all, you can't ignore colorism. That's just at the end of the day. That's my next live stream next week is just going to be like talk about colorism. The end. Address colorism. The end. Okay. And then your affirmation is, I am ready to stop sabotaging justice. I am ready to fully recognize and respond to the significance, the scope, and the stakes of colorism. All right? Okay. I feel like I'm extra now that I turned 38. I'm like, look, okay. Y'all thought I was out here before? Oh, but honey, post-birthday, I ain't playing with y'all. I'm not playing with y'all. Woo, all right. Comments, let's start with IG. What up, what up, what up? Hey, Keisha girl. Looking like a vision, friend. Come on. See, yes, it's the glow up, right? It's Gemini season and all that stuff. Insu Consulting, what's up, Insu? Immediately brings up, you'll never get a job with blank. Insert characteristic associated with deeply melanated folks, right? That profiling is not just about refusal of service or the drastic extreme occurrences. It's about the level and the kind of service. Okay, Insu Consulting on Instagram. It's not just like, oh, I outright refuse service. It's like, no, I have to serve you, but I'm gonna drag my feet doing it. I'm gonna make it clear that I'm unhappy that you are in my establishment, right? It's levels, okay? From a distance. That's what I'm talking about, disrupting norms on Instagram from a distance. When you think about all the studies, I don't know if I have any law enforcement people who watch, but the split-second decisions that determine life or death, right? You have to acknowledge that from a distance, split second, I can tell that you're black, versus from a distance, you may or may not be black. I don't know. You could be anything, right? It makes a difference. Like that 1 second that it takes to pause and say, oh, how might this person be racialized? could be the difference in saving a life or not. Yes, I be trying to teach, and you're just dropping the knowledge. People can pick it up if they're ready. Come on, come on. Yes. Okay, hold on. Let me calm down. It's being extra. People can pick it up if they're ready, okay? But it's hot though. Let me just let y'all know it's hot. So proceed with caution. Insu Consulting said a week or so ago, I wasn't served at a coffee shop in the order I arrived. I was helped after the less melanated person who came in 5 minutes after me. There were only 3 of us in there. Right, Insu Consulting. And when we talk about the stress of experiencing racism, again, it's multiplied for deeply, richly, magnificently melanated people. You know, we experience that accrued trauma of racial bias, racial discrimination. It's like death by a million cuts, right? We think, oh, it's only traumatizing if it's this like one monumentous event, but it's just as traumatizing. And I said this before, it's like, I forgot the exact word for it, but it's like this type of physical trauma. I had it in my wrist, right? Where it wasn't like an incident that broke my wrist, but like the repeated recurring stress on my wrist created an injury, right? And so it's definitely the same with the microaggressions and the less sensational forms of discrimination that are just as harmful. Let's see. Chloe Farrell says, you're an expat. Amazing. I'm moving to Mexico next month. Hey, Mexico. Yeah, I'm not officially an expat. I've been here for 3 months. Well, like 2.5 months. I maximized the amount of days I could stay on my visa. So it's like, because last year I was moving from city to city like every 30 days, and that was kind of exhausting, and I didn't really get to settle into a groove or a routine. So this year I was like, I'm gonna stay beyond 30 days. I'm gonna stay like 3 months or whatever, you know, so we'll see. But yeah, good luck on your move to Mexico. I'm excited for you. Insu Consulting says, or a few weeks ago, I was asked for assistance to help what seemed like an able-bodied to find the toilet paper in the CVS. Like I worked there. The chagrin he demonstrated, tried to laugh. He knew. Ooh, he knew. He knew, okay? They think you work at a store. Yeah. Bring that Gemini birthday energy. Always, always, always. All right, Grand Fam, I love talking to y'all, but I gotta show some love to my YouTube and LinkedIn folks. Aya, I see you in the chat, sis. What up? Oh, happy birthday! Look at it. Yes, Aya, happy birthday. Happy birthday, Insu Consulting. My June 12th siblings. So good to have y'all as my fellow Geminis. I forgot. Yes, happy birthday to y'all. Aya says, I'm my favorite Gemini, but you're definitely my second favorite. Okay. Yes. Okay. I love it. The hair and the earrings. This is from Kira Lene on YouTube. Thank you. Yes. So I washed my hair Sunday. I washed my hair Sunday. Did my little twist. Untwisted. I thought I was going to pick it out to be more fro-like, but then I saw I was like, yeah, we're going to let the twist pop today. Thank you, Baba. Ope Samo Ifa Korede. Yes, folks act like they don't know, but they be knowing, Michael. They be knowing, okay? Hey, LinkedIn user. I can't see your screen name for some reason, but I'm glad you're here. Let's see. Who else is talking on here? Shopping experiences can be over the top. Yeah. And imagine, what a shopping, especially like clothes shopping, for example. So I use this example as a cis woman, for example, being able to like never having anxiety around clothes shopping, never having anxiety about fitting rooms or trying clothes on. Also being a thin woman, never feeling that type of anxiety when I'm shopping. And so that's me having to like reconcile the fact that while I experience colorism, misogynoir in my shopping experiences, there are other forms of discrimination and bias and types of social shaming around my body type and my gender identity that I will never have to think about, that will never be a source of stress or pain for me, right? So yeah, it's definitely an intersectional experience, you know? I'm not sure if it happens less to me now or I just totally oblivious. Yes, it's interesting. I don't know why I can't be oblivious. Like I talked about last week in the video I shared, like I can't turn it off. I don't know what it is. Maybe one day I'll be able to like turn off the switch, but I just be seeing things. I just be noticing. Michael, the Blackberry days. I had like this orange Blackberry. So interesting. Ayah says, I've definitely noticed when I've been in areas where there aren't a lot of Black people in the population. It's much less. But when there's a lot of Black people, the racial profiling is over the top. We know they be lying. They be lying. Oh, and these were people of color. They were non-Black people of color at the bank in Oakland who were lying. Anti-Blackness is all over the place. It's all over the place, okay? So it ain't just the white folks at the bank. It be other folks at the bank lying, thinking you trying to cash a fraudulent check. And then my mama worked at the bank too. My mom was a bank manager. And so she was like really clutch because when I was calling her, she was telling me, I don't remember the exact details, but she called the person that they said they needed a signature from. We have to do way too much, y'all. Because I've cashed refund checks before. So I know it don't take all that. Like I was in grad school at that point. So I had 4 years of undergrad cashing refund checks. I'm like, y'all doing this on purpose. But I see y'all. I remember those college days. I still remember opening my first account in my first year. Yeah, you remember that? Reminiscing on the college days. Yeah, Tay Johnson, that's just something I've noticed in my personal experience. I went to college in a very white place, like everyone was white, and I don't really remember racial profiling. But when I moved to NYC, it was a daily thing, very annoying. Yeah, I definitely experienced racial profiling in New York City. I experienced racial profiling in the Bay Area of California. All of these places that have a reputation for being liberal. And I remember being in the Bay Area and people were like, oh, you're from the South. It must have been so terrible down there. The racism must have been so bad. And I was like, y'all just as bad. It looks a little different. Like y'all might come at it more sideways. It might be a more oblique type of racism, but y'all just as bad. Okay? Now, this is my experience. Okay? There are some places I think are worse than others for various reasons. But you're going to have racism in San Francisco, in Oakland. You're going to have racism in New York City. You're going to have racism in Miami, racism in Los Angeles. It's everywhere, okay? And anti-Blackness. So let's be real about that. Yes, 38, next level. 38 breaks down to 11, which is a master number. It's a very spiritual number. I'm here for it. LinkedIn user says, Ayah, oh yes, I know what you mean. My university is mostly white in New York. I've experienced the same type of BS. Oh, this is Tay. Okay, hey Tay. I'm glad you included your name so that now we know. MS on YouTube says the most insulting service experience I've ever had was at the hands of a Black waiter in a Virginia resort. Right? He refused to serve us the bottle of wine we had ordered. I was with my fully African dark-skinned then fiance, now husband. He said, you can't afford this wine. Girl, stop. 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 He did not say that. Oh, see? Ooh. This is, again, why even when we're talking about racial profiling and colorism, it's so easy for us. We really, really like to point the fingers at everybody else. But I said it before, like when we're talking about things like colorism and internalized racism and internalized oppression, internalized bias, you can't assume that just because you hire a Black person that they're going to be less problematic. You can't assume that just because you hire a person of color that they aren't also going to be perpetuating these oppressive systems, right? Because they'll do it too. They might not have created these problems, but far too many of us are happily perpetuating them, okay? Are happily condoning and reinforcing them. So yeah, thank you, Neo Soul So Free, for the birthday wishes. Thank you. I had to do some deep prayer meditation to become oblivious. Okay. I'm gonna start extending my meditation time. Start meditating for an hour in the morning and in the afternoons. Okay, I gotta go, y'all. It's 11:30. Love y'all much. Hey, Camille Morgan Shorter. Yes, we were in a 2,000 a night suite. And that's how delusional it is. It's like, why would we even be here if we couldn't afford it? You know what I'm saying? MS, I'm sorry y'all had that experience, but also I'm glad that y'all was living y'all's best life, okay? Let me see what Kyra Lene is saying, because it looks interesting before I go. I feel like so much of the Black experience is about proving the actuality of anti-Blackness by appealing to the moral senses of white and non-Black POC through images of our death. Like recordings of police murder. So the more quotidian experiences like poor customer service gets dismissed and or trivialized. Okay, Kira Lene, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. But yeah, you dropping some knowledge right there. That is true. Yes, everything you just said. Because we've had like our forefathers and foremothers, like people before us in the fight, have had to work so hard just to prove what's going on that we point to the most severe things. And so you're right. People are like, oh, well, that doesn't matter because, you know, they didn't call the cops on you. They didn't pull a gun out on you. So who cares if they discriminated, right? Yeah. Y'all are brilliant. Before I go, I just want to send a quick love letter to all of my followers, whether we're mutual followers or not. One, I think y'all are gorgeous inside and out. Y'all profile pictures be super cute. Y'all are so intelligent and informed, and you keep me sharp. I learn from y'all just as much as I hope you learn from me. I love seeing what y'all do on my profiles. If it pops up, I'm like, yes, you better celebrate. You better get that award. You better rest, take a nap. You better drink your drink. You better do whatever you're doing with your life because I love it. Okay? And on that note, I will see y'all next week for the last live stream of this series, of this spring series, where I'm going to be focusing on what we can do. Now, if you go back and watch all 19 of the previous seasons, I always give homework. I always give you some insights, some tips, some guidance on what you can do to take action. But next Monday, on Juneteenth, of all days, I did not plan it like that, so you know it's divinely orchestrated, okay? The whole stream is gonna be about solutions. So bring your questions. Bring your comments, because like I said, most of the people who tune in already are hip. Y'all already know what's up. So get ready to like just say, okay, now we know. And so here's what we're gonna do in light of what we know, okay? Love y'all to life, and I'll see y'all in approximately 7 days. Bye.